I only show in my email when I check the order.
Oh, okay.
And so if it's in there,
Time.
and I won't see it till
Okay,
the week before the meeting.
okay, I'll know next time then.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can we? 6. And Mr. Molina's on the way. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our August meeting. Lost board book.
Oh.
Hang on. All right, I believe the first item is to approve the agenda.
Pledge of Allegiance first.
Pledge of Allegiance. It's called. Well, I called to order. All right, Pledge of Allegiance. And Miss Victoria Lozada will lead us in the pledge, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to item number 3. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Yes.
The agenda is presented.
And Mr. Rivera's and second by Ms. Bosom. Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the question.
One, you could give me a verbal yes or no.
Yes.
Mr. Migliorino, are you on the line?
I am, but it's not appearing on my screen.
Mr. Migliorino, you need to unmute if you're on the line. We'll just let.
It's not appearing on my screen.
Okay, just on the top, just make sure you're logged in. You can give me yes or no. Can you give me a yes?
It's not appearing on my screen.
Okay, give me a yes or no verbal and I'll go ahead and enter the vote for you.
Mr. Migliorino, could we just get a verbal yes or no on the agenda?
Yes.
Yeah. Mr. Migliorino, at the top, can you just make sure that you're logged in?
I believe I'm logged in.
Thank you.
It shows
All right.
YouTube
Motion
view.
passes. We'll move on to summary of current events. Dr. Spurgeon.
Thank you, Chairman Straka. So just a few things that have happened since our last meeting in July. First of all, I do like to do personal welcome back presentations for all of our staff members. So I go to each of the 4 campuses and do a welcome back data overview and welcome everybody back to the new school year and also our new employees. And to also talk about the great things that have just happened in the previous year. Next thing is we've given some tours. So Midland County Community College out of Texas came to tour our Southwest campus. They're looking to build a facility with at least 80 welding bays. So they wanted to see our welding facility as well as our entire campus. So they were very impressed with that. Second tour we gave is the Northwest Campus UTI, which is the Technical Institute, which does all of the engine and automotive manufacturing companies. And our Avondale Toyota took a tour of our Northwest Campus Power Sports and the automotive program. And then lastly, Ottawa University toured our Northwest Campus nursing program. They're still looking to start their own nursing program. And we've offered our facilities for after hours programming for them to be able to start a nursing program with Ottawa. So they've just hired their new program manager, so we met with them. And I got a chance to look at our facilities and all of our resources to determine what the needs are. So they've made a list of things to get done to get that program started hopefully in July or August of 25. So we're excited about that. Next thing is UTI and Avondale Toyota and West-MEC, myself, we're going to be doing a presentation at the Chamber of Commerce for Glendale for their Education and Workforce Summit. And so it's going to be about partnerships. So we're going to talk about West-MEC's partnership with Avondale Toyota and the pathways we create there. And also the pathways for post-secondary opportunities for our students with UTI, and talk about how we collaborate, how we work together, and how individuals and businesses can get more involved with the educational process and be a part of that ecosystem of the workforce development pipeline. So we're excited about that. That's coming up in September. CJ and I got a chance to meet with Mayor Weirs at the city of Glendale, giving him an update on West-MEC and him giving us an update on what's going on with Glendale. So we had a great conversation with him and a couple of his leadership team members. So we're doing well in Glendale. And so we're still working on making sure that our partnership stays strong with them. He is housed now, I think, over at the Renaissance Hotel. They've got a lot of construction going on downtown at the city of Glendale's facility there. He's been misplaced or displaced. Met with the Halley Foundation, which is a not-for-profit foundation, which gives money to education. So we're looking for more opportunities to provide some money for equipment and programs and services. They were very impressed with the work that we're doing here at West-MEC. And so we had a chance to talk with their philanthropic leader or their person that disperses the money, and had a great conversation around our work with advanced manufacturing and some of our other programs. So we're hoping maybe that may lead to some additional funding for moving that pipeline forward in advanced manufacturing for sure. And the last thing is we met with Pipeline AZ yesterday. Pipeline AZ, again, is going to be that career literacy engine, that search engine that our students use to create the plans. That Pipeline AZ was put on hold because the funding stopped because of various reasons. Funding's back on track. Now we're back on track to get that done. We'll hopefully be able to roll that out this fall. So it'll be a jumping off page for West-MEC exclusively. And they're starting to tie some of the pieces together. You know how things get fragmented, where West-MEC has kind of a page, American County has a page, and ASU has a page. So we're trying to bring all that back together again to make it more simplistic and understandable for our parents. So we're excited about that. That being said, that just a few activities we've done since we last met. Thanks, sir.
Outstanding. Board members, anything you'd like to report on?
Got to visit the Northwest Campus with board member Ed Molina and also superintendent, and got to talk to the representatives from Avondale Toyota and UTI. And also got to hear the exciting work that the teachers are doing out there. So it's fun to hear the programs they've been working on, and just the excitement from the students. And I saw the value in that visit because just in the conversation between the representatives from Avondale Toyota and UTI, I could see new ideas, people coming up with new ideas or things that our teachers didn't know about or they didn't know about, and how they can feed off of each other and help each other grow. So that was good. That was a good experience.
I think one of the most positive things that happened is our students had the ability with other different manufacturers of automotive to have extra time to complete extra modules for more certifications. And what we found out during that meeting is our teachers didn't have access to Toyota's extra services and programs and modules to be able to get extra certifications. Of course, the card came out real quick and said, here, I'll make sure you have that. So that's the value. In fact, that didn't exist until that meeting. So it was a good piece.
Mr. Miglierino, anything?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the call to the public. We have one public policy. Do we have to make this it's the opportunity for the public to review our so this is the opportunity for the public to discuss or give us feedback on the policy. Oh, no, this is just participation. I was thinking, you changed the wording. I was thinking there was a policy we're reviewing. All right, one more call. Any public? All right. Let's move on to section D. Ms. Rodriguez. Recognition and celebrations.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Estrada, and members of the board and community.
So it is with great pleasure that I recognize one of our business services team members, Naomi Namaya. Unfortunately, she is not able to be here this evening. She is feeling under the weather. I did talk to her today and she's very thankful and honored. And just her work that she has done. She is our student information specialist. And the work that her and her team do is to make sure that we are getting all the money we're entitled to for our student enrollment and attendance. So she's worked really closely with our member districts. As you know, our member districts this year are self-reporting. So there was a lot of training that had to be done. There was a lot of reaching out to other student management systems. So there's like 5 different student management systems in the state. And not all of them know how to report CTE data. So she actually went above and beyond and worked with those management systems to make sure that they had their system set up to submit data correctly to the Department of Education. So for that work and her taking lead on that was just tremendous. And I know that the partner districts are very thankful for that. And then she also has created professional development workshops for our teams out at our schools. So she's not only training our member districts, but she's training our internal school employees as well, so that they feel comfortable with the focus and give them little tips and tricks of how to use focus. They're very appreciative. So we really appreciate her due diligence on making sure we're getting every dollar we're entitled to for ADM. And Naomi, I'm sure you're listening online. Thank you so much. And we're sorry that you couldn't be here with us today.
Can I ask, how much money did she recruit?
About $11 million.
That is
Mhm.
amazing.
So, yes, thank you for that.
Chairman Straka, members of the board, Dr. Spurgeon, a couple more recognitions that I'm happy to recognize this evening as well. First one, we wanted to recognize Mr. Frank Quinn. Frank Quinn works in our professional development partner as our industry certification manager. And for several years now, Frank has done tremendous work bringing industry credentials, connecting students with industry credentials. And in order to do that, that means we have to have teachers that are credentialed to be able to provide that to students. And there's a whole lot of work that happens behind the scenes to make those connections. And so Frank has done tremendous work with NC3 for several years, being that liaison with West-MEC and NC3. And he was recognized for his good work with the Founders Award. So NC3 recognized him at their annual conference in July in Wisconsin. But we wanted to take the opportunity, and Mr. Quinn is here. Come on up here. Frank's done an outstanding job connecting students. So just so you guys know, the NC3 is the National Coalition of Certification Centers, is kind of it's a coalition, an umbrella of multiple certifications that they provide for students. So for our programs, there's a lot of kind of micro credentials that students earn in precision measurement, tooling, all kinds of areas. But we have entire programs like our energy and manufacturing program, for example, and all the Festo pathway certifications, and our welding program through our Lincoln certification program that all fall under that NC3 umbrella. So this is very important to everything that we do at West-MEC in credentialing our students. And so we appreciate Frank's work and his recognition.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Lastly, this evening, we'd like to recognize our communications department. So our communications department recently received 2 awards through the National School Public Relations Association. They got to figure out a better acronym for that one, but it's essentially the network of school communication professionals that come together. And they received 2 awards recently, one for the West-MEC annual report, and then for the Why I Hire video series. So tremendous work. I know you guys have seen these, but the Why I Hire videos, the impact report, the annual report is awesome as well. But the why I hire videos, we just showed one of our recent ones at one of our staff meetings. And you talk about true validation for our teachers, for industry partners, and for the public to hear directly from those industries, people that are hiring our students and telling that testimony and why they hire West-MEC students, and be able to highlight that has been very impactful. So congratulations to Mr. Cook and the communications team. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Moving on, the Cartwright Elementary District and Miss Jessica Hewer. Welcome to the podium.
Good evening. You all hear me all right? Yes, all right. Governing Board Chairman, Governing Board members, Superintendent, and audience. My name is Jessica Hauer, and I am here on behalf of Cartwright School District number 83 as the Director of Educational Technology and Innovation. It is my pleasure to be here this morning. A little bit about Cartwright. We are located in a densely populated urban area identified as Maryville Village. Our district proudly serves roughly 12,000 scholars in about 20 schools. CSD 83, we boast the only A-rated school in the Maryville community. We're very proud of that. We have 11 kindergarten through 6th grade elementary schools, 6 schools that serve students between K and 8, and 4 middle schools, and then an early childhood center. The district motto, One Team, Una Familia, encompasses the belief that elevating and celebrating each scholar's success as a family is how we will achieve our district mission to empower our scholars to go above and beyond their potential. So I am here this evening to share the innovations that are a direct result of the partnership that we have with West-MEC. We are very grateful for not only the funding support, but the expertise that the staff at West-MEC is able to provide our K-8 district. As we make decisions on how best to utilize that funding, we always consider if the innovation supports and aligns with career and technical advances and college and career readiness for our scholars. Classroom supplies and scholar experiences make up about 90% of our allocation each year, with the remaining 10% of the funding supporting career and technical education, professional development for our scholars and our staff. We've highlighted some of those on this slide here. In order to prepare our students for careers of the future, we also focus on providing opportunities for students that they can take out into the real world as they enter college or a technical school or the workforce. Our students, we know, must be well-rounded and technically skilled to meet the needs of today's technical workforce. So here are some of the STEM and CTE opportunities that we help and offer to our scholars to prepare them for the future. We are especially excited about some of the recent additions to our curriculum to support drones and computer programming. It is a Cartwright tradition as well to host a college and career readiness kickoff for our 8th grade scholars that helps our students to see the endless possibilities that are in front of them. We are actually preparing for our kickoff right now. It'll be next Tuesday. Very excited. We bring all of the scholars to one location in the Atkinson Gymnasium. And we typically, as we are doing this year, bring in a keynote speaker, NCAA wrestling champion and local legend, Anthony Robles. He continues to inspire our students through his story of perseverance. His story touches the hearts of our students and adults alike. Here you see Anthony pictured at one of our, it's actually last year at our kickoff event. And we're super excited to hear that Anthony's story has recently been picked up and is slated to be a Hollywood, hopefully blockbuster. Good for him. With support from West-MEC funding, we have been very fortunate enough to open maker spaces, primarily serving our middle schools and 8th grade scholars. We opened our 12th makerspace this past spring at Estrella Middle School. And also this past spring, we worked directly in partnership with Rasan Bartet to co-host our very first hackathon for our scholars. We feel very strongly that these experiences like a hackathon are opportunities for students to work in teams and start working on solving problems in the community. So this year we focused on a hackathon with a sustainability theme. And I believe that's the last slide. Open to questions.
Questions from the board?
So what were some of the projects that the students came up with at this last hackathon, do you know? Or, and is there like a competition, like the best first, second, third place?
We did, but thankfully, Rasan was forward thinking and he brought many gift cards, so we were able to award a lot of prizes, as incentives, but we did pick a first, second, and third. With the sustainability theme, we found that the topics that the students were most eager to solve in their community were homelessness, trash, water, availability of water, and sometimes a combination of all three. So for example, they understood that homeless population does not always have access to clean water readily. So some of the groups talked about they wanted to see the park service having clean drinking fountains. They see a lot of the trash and litter. And they were also concerned about the amount of drug paraphernalia that was laying around in parks and areas, and even alleys and areas that were just not kept. So it was very impactful, I think, for us as teachers and administrators to hear from our scholars about what they see and how they feel and what they want to do to try to resolve some of these challenges. This coming year, we're gonna narrow our focus a little bit, I think, with the hackathon to really try to get them to be thinking about technical solutions. And so we have a shade tree initiative in the Cartwright district, thanks to funding from the city of Phoenix. So we're hoping students can look and understand why shade tree initiatives can support, or how they can support urban heat island. We know in the West Valley and in the Maryville community, that's a real problem. And so we're hoping for them to learn GIS, so a skill. We're gonna try to narrow it a little bit and really get that hands-on skill with the hackathon and using geographic information systems and helping them build their technical savviness, or at least their exposure to it.
That's great. Yeah, I'm not surprised that those are their main concerns. I drive through Maryville Village quite a bit every day, pretty much, like forth, to and from work. Yeah, I see that quite a bit. Thanks.
We're also hoping to, the Shade Tree Initiative again is a partnership with the city of Phoenix. We know the city has a sustainability and a resilience committee and department. We're hoping that we can build that bridge for them, for our scholars to practice sharing their voice, their concerns with the city. We would like to see more opportunities for them to even maybe next year, I will bring some scholars to present.
Yeah.
To talk about how the makerspace is being used, their STEM classrooms, and even some of these partnerships like the hackathon. Hold me to that, remind me. Students.
So on the in the courses that you have on your CTE stuff, do you have business partners that you work with, or is it any business sponsors or?
That's a great question. We do have business partners, not, I would say that they don't necessarily directly support those CTE classes, but I think you bring up a big point. Something that was new, that's not on the slides, but that we implemented last year was a CTE or a CCR Expo. So we know it's really impactful, as you were describing even tonight, that we have to have those partnerships to understand what is the need in our community. Where are the jobs? What can students be doing now in middle school? So with that expo, was the first time that we had, I think, 70 different companies come to the event. Again, we did it as like a field trip. We bused the students to one location and they had a chance to interact. But I think to your point, capitalizing on the expo and building those partnerships directly for the classes is probably something that we need to seriously be considering, so that we can retain our teachers and or get teachers more excited about the CTE courses. I think with declining enrollment, we have seen Unfortunately, some of our CTE classes collapse. We're down to about 2 industrial arts classes, and I think at one point Cartwright had about 5. So that's a challenge for us, I think. And with teacher retention, trying to keep those teachers that have had a long history of being CTE teachers is something that we're refocusing on this year.
You think it's teachers or is it student interest?
I think the students will be interested if you have the right teacher,
Yeah, for sure.
you know? Yeah, so I think we gotta refocus on our teacher recruitment and retention in the CTE. I'm a CTE teacher. I'm fairly new to the district, just wrapped up my first year. And for me, becoming a CTE teacher was a game changer. I understood that connection that students need to the real world. And the drive they need to understand, how does this equate to a job for me? How can I personalize this experience for me? So when we talk about personalized education in Cartwright, we are looking through the lens of that CCR and that CTE.
You said declining enrollment, just normal age thing.
Yeah, there was a demographic study that was done several years ago, and I think at that point, I don't know the exact numbers, but we might have been up to about 15 or 16,000. I mean, in the last 10 years, I think our enrollment, last 10 or 15 is probably split by 50%. And we're expected to decline all the way down to 10,000. So part of that is gentrification. Part of that is Grand Canyon University coming in and taking over more space. Part of it is charter schools and vouchers. And so I think there's a lot of things that contribute to that. Yeah. And as a community, what I focus on is how can we serve those students that are showing up every day? Yeah, still offer them quality programs.
I would just add Paradise Valley just closed for schools and it's declining enrollment because people are staying in their houses longer. On average, people are staying in their house till their 70s. Well, it used to be the 50s, you would have a whole second family cycle through. So the number of children coming through neighborhoods has dropped. Our old neighborhood where we raised our kids, there's no kids there anymore. But most of the same people are there, their kids are gone. And that's really the challenge for all schools is you can't pick up and relocate an entire school.
I think you have to think about maintaining, that someday they'll circle back. Because new families will move in. The Maryville Village is a very strong family-centered village. You can see that through the yards of the families and, the students playing in the streets. There's a lot of people in that space, so we have to kind of ride with the waves sometimes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Miss Amy Hand and the Ridgeline Academy program.
Hello, thank you for having me here. I'm not quite as polished as she was, so it'll be okay. I'm from Ridgeline Academy. My name is Amy Hand. We are a K-12 charter school in Anthem. We have K-6 campus. It was a K-8 campus 5 years ago in the fall of 2020 during COVID. We were nuts. The elementary campus was K-6 and we opened a 7-12 campus. I've been with Ridgeline since then. This is our 4th year to have CTE program with FBLA, got the paperwork all through. And the last 3 years, we've had a good participation, taking kids to state. The last 2 years, we've taken kids to nationals. It's just a lot of fun. We have several students. Our high school, our 7-12 campus has approximately 400 students. Maybe half of those are the 9-12. We probably have 15-ish students who come to West-MEC to your programs. We send them to West-MEC. We love it. We push it. We try to encourage campuses. Since we're at Anthem, they generally come to the closer ones. We have kids that do auto body. We have kids that do physical therapy. Wherever we need to get them, we work with them. We love it to have you guys come and present to our sophomores and our juniors to get them interested in the programs, because our mission is to know and grow our students every day. We want to help our kids figure out what they want to do. If that's college, great. If that's a career, great. I've been a CTE teacher my entire teaching, which is 24 years. So CTE is what I love. I love to help the students grow and figure out what they want to be, which is why I love FBLA and why we appreciate your support for the things that we get to do. This was our students last summer at the leadership camp, the FBLA leadership camp in Williams. Had a good turnout of kids go. Our FBLA had 28 high school members last year. This year, as soon as I can get the paperwork through, we're gonna be adding, we have the business management program, which is me. I'm the CTE director. I'm the business management program. Yay. We have another credentialed business teacher. He's teaching finance and marketing, so we're adding those 2 tracks this year. I'm working on 2 or 3 other teachers to get them credentialed so we can add other programs. Because we feel that this is important for the kids to help them know where they want to go. So last year we had 28 high school members, 3rd year as a chapter. We work closely with our middle level FBLA chapter. We have a very good CTE entrepreneurship middle level program that is part of the middle school rotation, and we pull those kids in at middle level and take them to the conferences, and they go to all the things that we go to, and I love middle level kids in FBLA. They are so much fun because, man, when they're into it, they are into it. And they have so much fun. And when you can get them started in middle level, they transition into high school so well.
Yeah, I like seeing those little light bulbs.
Oh, it's great. And I think this is probably my 16th year as an FBLA advisor. I have to really count. I was an advisor in Missouri for several years and then moved here and got it started again because I love it. Both of my kids were in FBLA. My daughter was a state officer here in Arizona. So I was an FBLA in high school. It's just such a good program, and I love being able to take the kids to things. They love going to this was a picture at the FBLA on Fire with the Suns last fall. They were so excited to go to the leadership conference and watch the Suns basketball game. This was at the Flex conference. We had 14 high school members attend. 17 went to the FBLA on Fire, and there's more kids than that in that picture because, like I said, the middle level kids come with us when we go to these places. We always figure out a way to get them to come. They pay their part of the fees and they come and participate because we want them in there. Our school director is very much a supporter of FBLA and wants these kids to participate and go gain those leadership skills and gain those soft skills. That's what I tell the kids. You need to learn how to network. You need to learn how to talk to people. You need to learn how to put yourself out there and not be afraid. They go to the workshops, they meet people. So it's just a lot of fun. This last year, we had 16 students attend state conference, which was a huge number for our school. Between the 16 kids, they competed in 48 different competitions. As I encourage them to do as many as they can. They can usually take up to 5. We had 2 students qualify for nationals, which we only had 1 last year, so it doubled our numbers. You know, I don't want to say sadly, the high school kids haven't been on the stage at nationals, but if you are familiar at all with FBLA, you know that competition is fierce. I think I've had kids on the stage at nationals maybe 2 times, maybe 3. I'd have to stop and figure it out. It's hard. We did have a middle level. One of our middle level teams last year, the first year we got to nationals, our middle level students in critical thinking did make it on stage. So we were pretty proud of them for that. And those 2 kids are fighting to be my president this year. We'll find out tomorrow which one of them it's going to be. And then here's nationals. We went to nationals this year in Orlando. Neither student placed in the top 10, but they had a lot of fun meeting people, going places, seeing things, learning how to travel, learning how to pack, learning how to talk to people, learning how to navigate airports. My students had so much fun with pin trading, if you've ever seen that. My one student, after the first day, I'm like, where'd all your pins go? He's like, Miss Hannah, I sold $. He was so excited. And it was a little after that, he's like, you know, because he'd been in FBLA in middle school, and last year as a freshman, and he's like, Miss Hand, I love FBLA. Now I understand business. Now I love business because he learned how to do that from pin trading. Yeah, give it to her. I love it. Pin trading, all the states show up with their own pins and it gets hot. The pin trading gets hot. Everybody wants Nevada because they always show up with some weird kind of alien pin and everybody wants it, so. And that's my last slide. So if there's any questions.
Can you tell me a little bit about the Flex Conference? What are some of the activities that they do there?
The Flex Conference is the leadership extravaganza. And we show up and they always have a really good opening speaker and the kids will be in a room. It starts about noon and they're there for like 45 minutes. They have a great motivational speaker that will come and get the kids going. And then they have like 3 sections of workshops that they go to. And they can choose. And we always let them know ahead of time, hey, these are the workshops. Go to a workshop, find something you want to do. So I have students that go to, had a couple go to the state officer workshops because they're interested in being state officers. You know, different workshops, whatever they feel like they need to do that the state puts on. I've taken middle school kids to this conference too. And they had an entire workshop just for middle school students to help them learn how to network and understand FBLA. That's the Flex Conference. Afterward, they have to dress up for that one. So it's great to, Flex Conference, you have to dress up. The guy's business dress, you gotta look nice when you go. And then that evening, they usually do an activity at like Dave and Buster's, whatever. You don't have to go to that, but we went last year and the kids had a lot of fun. So it's just the best thing I think I've seen from going to these conferences is my students meeting other kids from across the state, getting ideas on how to promote our chapter, how to help other students. I want to do this, I want to do that. Some of our students have started our own Instagram account and then they're posting stuff on there and then like following other places, other chapters, Instagrams from across the nation that they met at nationals and doing our own, trying to promote and learn ideas through networking.
I think that's excellent. So you were saying that you have a lot of your students that come to West-MEC, which I think is wonderful. What classes do you teach at Ridgeline?
At Ridgeline, I teach business management, is the business management track, business management 1 and 2. Like I said, we have we had a teacher that last year he taught finance and marketing, finance class and a marketing class. So we're adding those in to expand our program this year to include finance and marketing. Because he's already credentialed. It's just, I just got to push the paperwork through. I've been talking to Elena Sabampo and I know what I have to do to do that. So we're just building the scope and sequence right at the moment. Here it is, let's put it together. So it's a little easier since we got the program going a few years ago and jumped through all those hoops. It's very different here than it is in Missouri. So I had to learn a lot of new things.
Yeah.
That schools are very competitive in Anthem too.
Yes. Yeah.
There are 2 or 3 really big schools out there.
Yeah, there are some big ones. We're up, our elementary school, we've been watching them build that new chip plant from the day they broke the ground. It is right across the freeway from them. So I've been driving past that for the last 4 years, watching it go up, 5 years that I've been going originally. And there's a lot of diversity moving in. There's a lot of people moving in. There's a lot of competition too, trying to have our students matriculate and stay. It's been a training thing for our families because they were used to 8th grade, sending their kids to Boulder Creek, sending their kids to Sander Day. And we're like, no, we've got a high school and you can do everything here that you can do there, which is one of the things that we love having the West-MEC partnerships. Anything they want to do there, we can figure out a way to do it here. So, and they get, you know, when you got a class with 15 or 20 kids in it, it's a lot better than classes with 30 or 35 kids.
Great.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Right. The back to school report. Mr. Guy, welcome back.
Back up again. Happy to be here this evening to give a quick, just a brief back to school report. We are, students are back on campus in programs and all the magic is happening, as we like to say. We're on day 13. Our aesthetics program started on July 29th. So they're on day 13 today. They just finished. And day 10 for all of our other programs. So we're off and rolling with students on all campuses, very successful start to the school year. Huge credit to our campus administrators, our teachers, all of our staff, all of our support here for teachers and staff to start very successfully. It doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of work. All summer long, our teachers and staff have been preparing for students and to welcome them on campus, and they've done just a phenomenal job making them feel welcome and getting them right to work. You'd be surprised. It's day 10. If you walk on a campus right now, you would think students have been there for a year. I mean, they're in labs, they're hands-on, they're very engaged. So we're excited to have a great start to the school year. One example of, but prior to the school year starting at the last week of July, we do orientations for all of our students. If you ever get an opportunity to attend one of those orientations, it's an exhausting time for our campuses, because some of our bigger campuses, it's like 3 nights in a row, but they bring all of their new students and parents in and really set the stage for a strong start to the year. So all that good work's been happening to set the stage for the start of the year. The snapshot of data, I won't go through all of that information, but we did want to just highlight a few items. The first one being the increase in the number of students. We have over 300 more students in our central programs this year to kick off the school year, which has been awesome to see. We started 4 new programs, two central programs and 2 partner programs. So on our Southwest campus, we started our automation robotics program and also our cloud technology. Getting Amazon Web Services credentials for our students in that program. And then we started 2 new partner programs with working with Paradise Valley Community College for the first time in an esports program, which has been tremendously exciting. That's been one of the best partnerships that we're so excited about the opportunities to come with Paradise Valley Community College and the opportunities that's going to present for students. And we also brought back our cosmetology program with Gateway. So that's been a huge success as well, serving a lot more students than we could on our current hairstyling programs on our central campuses. So excited to start those new programs, bring more students onto our campuses. A couple other highlights. Some of this data that you've seen, but it's worth noting again. You can see last year, 93% of our students passing the TSA assessments, a record all-time high for that. We're tracking, continuing to push the needle on preparing students with those technical skills and demonstrating on those assessments as well. Just as a reminder, statewide, the statewide average for TSAs this year was 76%. So obviously we're highly surpassing that state average and pushing our own benchmarks. Some of our credentials, as you see, is the industry ready credentials. 93% of last year's completers left with those industry ready credentials from our 2022-23 cohort. And we're on track to keep pushing that mark as well. So we keep getting better and better every single year on those marks. Also, one last highlight is our placement. As you see, 90% positive placement last year. We saw a significant jump in our positive placement. A lot of credit our career services team and our career coaches and our teachers, everyone really working together to follow up with those students a year out of the program, and which is not easy, as you can imagine, all the time to get a hold of those students and get them to respond to some of those placement surveys. But 90% positive placement is an awesome number as well. We're up to 33 different programs now with those 4 that we started, 33 unduplicated programs within the district. And over the next couple of years, we'll be looking to greatly increase that number as well, which is more student opportunities. So that is the highlights I have and on the successful start to the year, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Those are great highlights.
You know, on the report, education, employment, what does that represent?
The education and for placement.
No, education, employment under central program, completer placement.
Yeah, so the education plus employment, so that's, so our students, when we survey those students in placement, we survey those students that are in, you know, they're just going to school full-time. Education and employment is those students that are out there working while they're going to school. So a lot of our students that are out there just as an example, maybe they're working as a medical assistant, but they're going to school to
Working,
go back
going
to
to
the
school,
indoors.
CT. Oh,
So
wow,
they're-
okay, I know that.
They're going right to work to use their skills, but also pursuing education at the same time.
So they're employed in some, whatever they trained in.
Correct.
Okay.
22.35, that's like a solid percentage, yes. Is there anything that you see coming up this year that we should be focused on, from your perspective? In terms of what you're seeing, maybe classes filling up really fast, or there's something, something that the board would like to hear?
Yeah, I think, and thank you for the question. I think, and something that's been top of mind with us at leadership is really evaluating those programs where we have some of those big wait lists and some of those programs, how can we create more opportunities to fill where both the industry's demanding those high needs from our industry partners, but also we have that big student demand as well. And so some of the projects that we're currently undertaking is going to allow us to fill those needs in different areas to make sure that we're right now, we hate to turn away students that are on a wait list that we just can't get into our programs. So being able to offer more of those opportunities in those high demand programs, of course, that the industry needs as well, is top of mind for us right now. And then really continue to hone in on all of our metrics and goals. Credentials is something that we constantly, even though our numbers look really, really good, every year we go and visit those credentials with our industry partners and our advisory councils. Hey, are these still the right credentials? Are these really the ones that are really required and preferred to put our students above the mark? And sometimes that changes, right? Industry changes and those needs change. So continue to evaluate that not only the students are earning the credentials, but are they the right credentials to put them to work? So those are a couple of areas that we're focused on.
In that same vein, if you've got high industry demand and high student demand, how do we avoid not being the choke point? And what can we do to make sure that that doesn't happen?
Yeah, I think continuing to look at central programs as well and where are those opportunities for our central programs, but also looking at our satellite programs, so with our member districts. So Ridgeline was an example of that, and all of our other member districts where we have satellite programs. So really uplifting some of those programs as well. So those opportunities where we can serve that industry need on a high school campus where they have very successful programs going as well in collaboration with ours. And so lifting both of those up at the same time. So it is growing opportunities to central programs for sure, but then also looking to support our satellite districts and where are those opportunities for them to maybe add some different programming that students would have access to right on their own home campus, and how do we best support that and help them grow those opportunities, because those opportunities are growing as well, and we'll report on that later in the year, some of those satellite numbers, but I think it's growing both of those and looking at it really in a broad consortium of West-MEC with our central programs as well as our satellites that are serving 40,000 plus students out there every day in the city.
So real quick, on the program capacity, on first year, you had, on the report, you had first year and 1 year only programs. Is the capacity similar?
Yes, so the first year, thank you, Chairman Straker, for the question. So the first year is the brand new students that are coming in. So that 92% is the brand new students coming into programs, and then that total is the average of the brand new students coming in as well as our second students returning.
Yeah. So the ones that are 1 year program, do we have a higher capacity than just first year? It was my question. And
We do.
and that's what are we, I guess my question is, have we looked at, is 1 year filling of a need? Is there a demand for more 1 year? That's kind of where I was going with that.
Yes, it's a great question. Yeah, for an example, we do have more capacity in those 1 year programs. Medical assisting is a good example. Our medical assisting 1 year program, we fill that up to 28 students, sometimes all the way up to 30, if we can really push it, to serve that 1 year program. And we do evaluate those, and over the last several years, we've added a lot more, I shouldn't say a lot more. We've balanced out to have 1 year programs as well as our 2 year programs, because they do serve, students that maybe aren't ready to make that commitment as a sophomore to a 2 year program. may, see that light as a junior or even as a senior, and to be able to come into those one-year programs or stack those one-year programs with our satellite programs. And so that's an approach we're also taking to, like, physical therapy is a good example of that, where a lot of our satellite programs have sports medicine programs. And so we're able to do that as a one-year program, so they can still finish their whole program at their home high school and then come to us their senior year in a one-year program. So the answer is yes. Advanced manufacturing is an area where the automation robotics program, we added our Southwest campus, was a one-year program for that very reason. So we could serve a different population of students in automation robotics who maybe weren't able to take the full two-year program and still be able to get employable in the industry. So it's kind of a balance and a combination we're continuing to look at.
And some just make sense. With one example, electrical and HVAC are stackable credentials where you can actually work and achieve both of them. And that just makes sense. If we had plumbing, that would also make sense with that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guy.
Good job.
Legislative update, Mr. Williams.
Chairman Straka, members of the board, Superintendent Spurgeon, thank you as always for the opportunity to provide a brief update on some legislative items and strategic partnerships. First, I'd just like to echo the sentiments from Dr. Spurgeon and Mr. Guy on a successful start to the school year. First couple of days, I had a chance to get out to the campuses, and just anytime you need to be reminded of why we do what we do, regardless of your capacity, visit a campus, walk through some classrooms and labs, talk to a student, hear what their goals are and how West-MEC is really driving them toward those goals. And it will center you real quick and remind you of why we're here. I reached out, sent a text to Holly and her team at Northwest, said thank you for just kind of letting me stalk the campus for an hour and see it in action, because over a summer you start to miss seeing students in the spaces. So kudos to all the leaders and support systems in place and the teachers that execute on that to make this happen for our students. Legislatively, the primary election is behind us and the stage is set for the upcoming general election in November. For the most part, we know what those likely matchups look like. I won't go into all the details with the West Valley legislative districts, but we'll have an extensive ballot come November between the federal, state, local races and measures that will be on the ballot. I'll just say, because I have the lectern right now, study the issues, do your research, obviously. You will have billions of dollars thrown at you in marketing and advertising and campaigning over the next couple months. So don't base decisions off of that, but do your own research from primary sources. And with every election cycle comes an opportunity for West-MEC and with Dr. Spurgeon's leadership to really meet with and build the relationships with candidates as well as elected officials and ensure that our policymakers are well informed. They have a lot to absorb as they take office and assume their duties. And oftentimes the system grabs hold of them quickly and then they kind of become part of that. And it's our responsibility to ensure that we get ahead of that and really help them to understand from our perspective the value of high quality career and technical education and what this does for students and the pathways it creates. So we have reached out to all of the West Valley general election candidates as well as the current legislators to meet for whatever time they can give us. Sometimes it's a 15-minute quick meeting just to kind of make the connection and leave them with some information. Other times they'll give us a full hour and tour one of our campuses. So we'll take whatever we can get. Many of them are taking us up on that and our schedules book it up pretty quickly. And we'll continue to follow up with them. I say that, legislation is a cycle. It's cyclical. January to June typically is the legislative session, but I think equally important is that July through the end of December, where those relationships are built and policies are informed, because in the heat of a session, there's a lot of other pressures and distractions. So we look forward, and I appreciate Dr. Spurgeon's vision and support of really being involved in that space to ensure our policymakers are well educated. With any election cycle comes some change, potential change in leadership in both chambers as well as committee chairs. So we'll pay close attention to that, and that could also sway the dynamic between the legislative and executive branches and how those policy decisions are made and budget decisions are made. So we'll stay on top of that and certainly keep the governing board informed as those things shake out. Propositions coming up, we've got potentially 13 statewide measures, I believe. And then at the county level, we've got Prop 479, which we've talked about in the past, the continuation of the transportation tax to support the regional transportation investment plan. Kind of like legislatively, we've talked the last couple of board meetings about the challenge that some of our families have had with STOs, the school tuition organization, student tuition organization scholarships. And those recipients kind of got caught in this gray area of what statute, how it reads, and what the interpretation is through the Department of Revenue and its guidance. And I will say that I think it's Dr. Spurgeon's voice and the work of our team at West-MEC that really did yield some results for these families. The Department of Revenue got to a point where they said that if a family or an STO reaches out to them directly, they will provide guidance that their STO would not be at risk if they were to attend a CTED and a program. They would have to pay that tuition out of pocket, but that they would not be at risk of losing their scholarship, which was what had previously been told to those families. Additionally, shortly following that, the Department of Education issued in their interpretation in writing and distinguishing the difference between enrolled and attending, and that provided additional assurance to those families. So ahead of all of this, Marilyn and our services team did just tremendous work in contacting each of those families and the STOs and the private schools to make sure everybody was kept well informed and could make good decisions. And I believe, Marilyn, that we've accommodated all. Is that true? Yes, so kudos to her and her team at West-MEC to make that happen. Strategic partnerships, I'll just provide one quick update on Innovation 27 and the work that we're doing over there. Did you have a question on legislative stuff? Yes.
So what is the difference between enrolled and attend?
One generates ADM, one is funded through average daily membership, and we claim to the Department of Ed for funding, and that's enrolled. And then attending is you are not generating ADM. We code you differently in our system so that you don't generate ADM, so that you're not double dipping, essentially.
Okay. That saves you from losing your scholarship if you're just attending as a team.
Correct. Because you're paying the tuition out of pocket. You're not having it funded through ADM and through the Department of Ed.
Thanks.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers there to understand, but we do try our best and try our best to equip our families with that information. Innovation 27, we continue in the design and development process. We're really now at the site use analysis. There's over 100,000 square feet at that location. West-MEC will be one of 4 collaborating education partners. West-MEC, ASU, Maricopa Community Colleges, and NAU. West-MEC and NAU have been very clear about their plans for that site and what our educational use will be. West-MEC being the refrigeration technician program in partnership with our industry partner, the AMS Group. Julie Rodriguez, our Director of Program Research and Development, has done tremendous work to engage our industry partner around exploring what that pathway looks like. Are they short modules, 4 weeks, 6 weeks modules for current technicians that can upskill to the new EPA guidelines and applications? Is it an apprenticeship model? Is this some other type of customized training that could be provided? But we're working through that. We're excited about the use of that space. The city of Phoenix has hired a consultant, Bloomberg, who is really bringing all the partners together to best understand how the space will be used, which will then inform, at some point, we'll bring to the governing board for consideration a use agreement of the site. City of Phoenix is paying for the renovation and the development of the site, over $30 million. We're leaning on industry to help outfit the training space and the actual training aids and equipment. We may have some smaller capital costs in the form of office furniture and desks and things like that. But really the financial commitment for West-MEC over time will be that use agreement that we are going to pay X amount to have use of that site on an annual basis. So I don't have any idea what those numbers will be. I think it will be very fair, and we'll bring that to the board when we have it for consideration. With that, I promised my colleagues I'd be brief, so I stand for questions or comments.
So CJ, just to recap on that one, that's a facility by the old Metro Center or Christown.
Yeah, just Metro Center, just south of there, off of Northern, the old Kmart.
And so which schools is that gonna serve as a CTE training facility?
So phase one, what we're looking at exploring is more of an adult focused programming. If in the future we got into any type of secondary high school program, it would be in partnership with one of the post-secondary, some type of pathway. So an example would be our dental assisting program that led to a dental hygienist associates through Maricopa Community Colleges. NAU has some semiconductor offerings there. So it could be something that came out of our advanced manufacturing program and led to that pathway with NAU. But right now, we've not committed to anything beyond the refrigeration tech program, which is an adult focused program.
Thanks.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right. Moving on to our policy recommendation. Ms. Mays, welcome.
Good evening, Chairman Straka, members of the governing board, Dr. Spurgeon. As we review our policies and we start to refine them as they apply to West-MEC, I have submitted two policies for your first read tonight. The first is Policy 5104, which is for homebound or hospitalized students and students with chronic health problems. This policy was revised to reflect our current procedures here at West-MEC. Because of the nature of career and technical education, unfortunately, if a student has to miss a number of days of school, that could affect their certification requirement or not meet industry standards. So we're updating this to reflect that and make sure that our families understand that they'll have to work with their campus administrator to see if the student can complete the program or if they need some additional assistance, we work that out so the student can be successful. So that's 5104. And then 5502, we are updating that policy for students with disabilities. A student's right to a free and appropriate public education doesn't end when they come to West-MEC. So we have staff members, our exceptional student services liaisons, that work as advocates between the students' high school and with West-MEC. So even though we don't do child find where we identify students that have special needs, but our ESS liaisons work as advocates to make sure they understand what's in that IEP and they can translate it to help that student be successful here at West-MEC. So we updated that information to make sure that parents understand what our limitations are. But another unique advocacy that our ESS liaisons do is they also work with our teachers who may not necessarily be familiar with working with special needs students. So they help them with instructional strategies. So if a student does have an IEP and they may need additional testing time, for example, the ESS liaison would be an advocate to make sure that that student is successful. So we wanted to make sure that we updated the policies and make sure that they reflect what we're able to do here at West-MEC. And I stand for questions.
I would just add that this is first read, so we'd have second read. Any comments, just direct them directly to Ms. Mays in the next month so we can incorporate those into the final version.
Thank you, Chairman Straka. We'll bring it back for a second read in September. Thank you.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any items people want pulled? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Oh, Mr. McLarino moved and Ms. Bosom second. All right. Mr. McLarino? Can you give us a verbal yes or no on the consent agenda?
Yes. By the way, I couldn't hear you. And when I try to join live, it tells me the host won't let me. And I do not get any voting on my electronics. So just so the IT people know. Thank you.
Okay, we'll just do verbal votes the rest of the way.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to the action items. Dr. Spurgeon.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Straka, board members. Just talk briefly through the 2024-2025 goals. I've met and I've spoken, I think, with each of you, or at least communicated with each of you. And the top three goals are the same as they were last year. These are three pillars for us as a CTE organization. The first one is around students achieving that high value industry credential. And again, keep in mind that as a CTE organization, this is really where the rubber meets the road. And so we want to ensure as many students that come through our programs complete that program, including the credential. Us sending students out with that credential would really be them spending an entire year or 2 years of doing nothing. And so the reason it says it takes a year for the students to complete that is some programs won't allow their students to sit for credential until they've graduated the program, either turn 18 or they have their diploma. So that's why it takes a little bit more time for students to be able to come back and complete those programs. Plus, if you remember, the first year I came, there was a backlog of students in hairstyling and cosmetology, I believe, that needed to test. So that's why we opened the Extra Start Center opportunities for kids to come back, and they're able to come to next door if I'm pointing in the right direction. You know,
Whatever.
now they can come back and finish or take their credentials test, and they're able to fill that in. So again, keep in mind, and also keep in mind that you know, in some folks' minds, you think, well, why are the goals, you know, the same each year? It's a different group of students. Plus, we have more than 300 more students this year. So every time you start looking at performance metrics, the chance of failure of not meeting that goal increases each year. But it really allows for every one of my goals really aligned to the district strategic goals, which aligns to my goals, which aligns to the building's tactical goals, which aligns to the teacher performance goals. So everything's all in line. Everybody's pulling the same rope in the same direction. So it allows folks to be able to know specifically, what do you ask me to do? What do you want me to perform? What's most important to the organization? So that's goal number one. Number two, TSA. And again, keep in mind, my goals have to require one performance metric. And this is the one, it's the State Technical Skills Assessment, which is administered through the Arizona Department of Education. Now, this is not only beneficial for our West-MEC students, but all these scores go back to our K-12 comprehensive school district. So every student that passes that assessment gets the K-12 comprehensive more points towards that A through F accountability. And so as I did last year, we met with the cohorts of principals or administrators in each of the 4 quadrants. And we had probably 4 or 5 principals or administrators that came, and we spent a great deal of time looking through the A through F accountability metrics, because CTE accounts for 20% of the amount of points that they can get towards that letter grade. We wanted to make sure that they were accessing the full 20 points. And if not, then how could West-MEC and that school partner to ensure that they got those full 20 points? So that was a great conversation for us to be able to have. And again, this is that performance metric that allows, you know, West-MEC to be able to say, you know, we're doing well with our students, not only by industry credentials from our industry advisory committees, but also by the state. So 2 areas that we're able to do that. Number 3 is, again, this whole work around career literacy. So we want to get them in, we want them in the right student, right program, and we want them to lead with an exit plan. Because the bottom line is that if you don't lead with an exit plan, far too many of our students would go off, you would find something more important, something else that would take your time, some family situation or something that happens. So we want to leave them with a plan for them to be able to say, what is my next step? The other thing is, oftentimes, unless you really work with students and parents, they just don't know. So at West-MEC, we want to make sure that they can see that seamless pathway from before they apply all the way to the very end. So if you leave West-MEC, here's 15 or 18 companies that are hiring a medical assisting student right now. If you want to go on to further your education, we've articulated that pathway with XYZ, Maricopa County Community College. You can take that pathway. Or you can go to work and go to school at the same time, or you can articulate your pathway to a four-year university. We want to make that's a no-brainer, because what's complicated doesn't get done. So for us, that career pathway is really important for the students. And again, the last two are board directed. So number one was self-funded, and number two was to come up with an employee performance pay plan that includes all applicable employee groups that do not qualify for classroom stipends. Yes, sir.
Question, goal number 3, and I was kind of mulling over this a little bit, reading some CTE district material, and then some CTE stuff that I read from other states. We don't mention a lot the parents. It's like there was one that I read that whenever they do reviews with students, they always have the parent there as well. And then they have like one where they interview the student, and then later they interview the parent separately, but most of it's going to be student and parent, to make sure that you got the family buy-in to that career development opportunity or a career development direction, skill path. Do we do that with West-MEC? Was that, because I'd like to see that included in our goal 3, that we're doing both continuously, not one time, but multiple times, to make sure that the culture sticks.
Well, thank you for that question. So we.
It's a softball for you, Marilyn.
It's a lovely question to ask, right? So we do something called discovery meetings. So our counselors that are out on our campuses, they meet individually with every first year and 1-year student, and they invite the parent to be part of that conversation. We have data on part of their 301 goals. We have data on how many they've met with and how many parents have come to those. So they put out a little Google form, and those parents sign up, and most times they are in person, somewhere between 20 minutes to a half an hour, sometimes 45 minutes. But they've also been able to do virtual in order to help parents who can't come, you know, and spend that time getting out of their work or whatever. So they do a lot of virtual or even phone ones with parents to make sure that that happens. So it has really been, if you talk to the counselors, they'll tell you that it's one of the favorite things that they love to do. It's just to spend time. And then that second year, it's our career coaches that are then meeting one-on-one with those students, and they're hosting those credential nights where parents are coming on to this virtual credential night program that Jessica and her team have put together. So there is a lot of it. And then there's orientations, and there's open houses, and there's follow your arrow. So there are many, many opportunities for parent engagement.
So going back to what you just said about the second year student. So we shouldn't stop doing those individual invitations to the parents. The collaboratives are one thing. If you throw an event, that's different than me asking you to attend. If I'm asking you to attend, then that's more direct, right? If I'm saying I'm throwing a group party, you can attend if you want. So that's a little bit different. So to build a culture with some fields that aren't really familiar to some individuals or cultures, it can't be a one-off. It's got to be continuous.
I would say that probably if you had a couple of our principals up here as well, they have the bring your parent to work day. So there are a lot of these individual opportunities that parents are coming on campuses. So I was giving you like maybe the 30,000 foot of the bigger program. But I would imagine that if Jared and I said, hey, let's look at how many times what our parent engagement looks like, whether it's even a letter sent home or a good news card that's sent home, or bring your parent to work, or trunk or treat where parents are coming and working with their kids and then seeing things. I think there's a plethora of opportunities for our parents that are being individually asked to come and spend time with their student on our campuses.
But I also think it's a great idea for us to explore. So, because I think what I hear you saying is at the end, and in that actual plan, having the student and the parent part of that actual, so maybe we can more formalize the parent involvement in that final career plan and some kind of exit meeting with, because we do that, certainly do that with the student, but how can we better incorporate our parents in that process at the end and finalizing that plan and that next step?
Their goals and hopes and dreams for their students, right?
Because if you look at some ROTC programs, they incorporate parents a lot. So I think, and the reason why is because culture, right? I mean, you're in the military, so we don't favor that. So having the parent aligned with what the path is, not only do they celebrate it in the home, it's like, hey, you know, good job, and as your teacher's awesome and all this other stuff. But also it helps to create their pathway. They're now engaged, and now they're bought in, and now they're endorsing, and now they're advocating, right? So, and all those steps come right up to, you're not sitting on the couch, you remember that meeting with the teacher, you're gonna be there, okay? You know, so, you know, we wanna encourage that momentum, especially in the household that is not used to semiconductor, advanced manufacturing, battery manufacturing, construction, or anything, you know, of that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And, you know, Mr. Garcia, well, the other thing kind of comes off the page, maybe we don't necessarily monitor, but when students are out in those work-based learning opportunities, the kinds of conversations that happen inside the home that we don't know about, because you know they have to be talking about the experience because it's brand new for them, which means they have to have someone to talk to. So they'll probably have those kinds of conversations. We just don't capture that on paper.
You know, and that other piece that's so interesting, you know, like we have our hairstyling programs. Well, when the young ladies and young men need to bring their people in to do things, they're bringing in their mom and their dad and their grandma. So like, they're actually, you know, if you look at a lot of our programs, they have the ability to bring their folks right in to get esthetician work, to get hairstyling work, to get their car fixed, to, you know, whatever that is. That's just such a unique piece that we get to have as well.
Good suggestion. Thank you. Yes.
Right. I guess my question would be maybe to you or to them. I hear a lot about family. What about the kids that are in foster care and those students? How are we supporting them? Because I keep hearing parent. Are we the foster program as well?
It would be the same, Marilyn, with any student
Be
at
a
West-MEC.
parent or guardian. I mean, that would never just be only a
So
parent.
we need to really, because if we always say parent, I feel like we're,
When we write to families, it always is parent and guardian. I mean,
okay, I just want to make sure we're not discounting foster kids, because I think foster kids are a group that could more benefit because they're less likely to go to college because they don't have the funding. And so I think we really need to focus on the foster kids as well.
And then we also have the homeless piece that we also offer for students that are homeless.
Yeah.
As well as those support systems in place, because sometimes they're hard to find. And so we have support systems in place if they need it. We don't use it very often. We do use it sometimes.
We do, you know, I was just talking to our counselors the other day, and the good news is we don't use it very often, right? But if we do need to use that, then we have that one-on-one communication with the homeless youth to be able to help students that way. But you know, it is parent and guardian, and we always, if you look at our letters, that's what it says. You're talking to a counselor here. We're on it.
I just
Great
want to
guy.
make sure
We're on it.
that there's a small percentage of kids that are just, foster kids have a rough road, and I just want to make sure we're not leaving them behind.
We're on it. We, you know, we're a team that's
Thank you.
that's got that handled. Thank you.
Any other questions about goals?
I do have one. I'd like to see maybe an additional goal 6 added. You know, I'd like to cultivate like maybe a 10% employee growth program. You know, and talk to our employees and stuff like that. What are their goals? What do they see their future with West-MEC? And how can we, just like we do with our students, you know, have a career tree? You know, what path do you want to go down and help them, you know, mentor them to get them to where they want to be? And I think that just is gonna just have, you know, more of a loyalty, and we know that we're all working together.
I would expect that to come out of each person's leader. That is something a leader should have regular conversations with everyone on the team. What are your career goals? That I wouldn't expect that from, you would have that with your direct reports and their direct reports, and it would be all the way down. If their leaders aren't having that, then that's a bad leader.
And also that's typically, from my experience, that's typically a performance review discussion. Okay, here's what you've done so far. Where do you see your career going? And how can I help you? What am I not doing to facilitate you expanding or growing your career in the direction that you want to go? And they say, well, I want to go sell ice cream. Well, I'm sorry, we don't sell ice cream here, so that doesn't fit.
That's part of my evaluation there. I think there's a statement or two in there that what you're referring to is really looking to build capacity within the organization. And I think, Louis, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's still part of the evaluation process that makes that. we can have a conversation to kind of further talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
So Dr. Spurgeon, could you just on goals 1, 2, and 3, can you remind us what last year's numbers were and what this year's numbers are?
Last year, goal 1 was 93, maybe.
Oh, it went from, for goal 1 was
Well,
88
one
to
was
90.
88.
Yeah, goal, yeah.
2 was 90 to 91, and 3 was 90 to 93.
Yeah, 88, this year's 90, 90, 91, and then 90 to 93.
Yeah.
90 to 93, 88, 90, 90, 91, 90, 93. 88, 90 and 93. Or 90. 88, 91,
I like sitting next to Mr. Ramirez because he always has the answers to my questions.
88, 90 and 90, 91 and 90.
And the only one you have to go up on is number 2, because every year it requires, I don't know what you're gonna get to in 8 years, you're gonna be at 99%.
It will be different for one,
But
yeah. But thank you.
yeah, that would, for future, next year, always remind us what last year was. Or at least me. Other questions?
I have a question on goal number 2. Does the state have a requirement? Percentage, what is the state's requirement?
You do for all the students that are in those programs have to.
Yeah.
It's the technical skills assessment. So that's the end of, almost like if you're in high school, you have to take the ACT test, or if you're at an elementary through middle school, they have the state assessments. That you're required to take those tests. This is the TSA that's required for career technical education programs.
Do they have a requirement for the district, like a passage rate requirement? No?
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
Again, I think Mr. Guy said that across the state, an average is 76%. We're above that. Again, our goal is 100%. I mean, we want 100% of our students to pass that test and 100% of our students to complete a high value credential and 100% of our students complete that plan. It's just, sometimes we lose students, so we never get 100% of our kids yet to finish the program that they started. So we're hoping to move more towards that. Goal is always 100%, but for measuring purposes and for evaluation, there has to be a number put on a page. But for us, the goal is always every student.
And why did we take the financial audit? I was thinking about this driving in. We always had a financial audit on there for no major.
I just kept it at 5 since we already have the other 2 goals. Like, again, that has to be a good anyway, so we have to get a passing rate on that one, so. And there's also measurements on the evaluation tool here. It's something we haywire than.
We've never had a problem, so.
Yeah.
Let's not start now.
Do we have 2? How many audits do we have?
We have this one, and then we still have the performance going on with the Auditor General. That's still ongoing, and we're hearing now that may be towards the end of the semester before that's completed.
It's been going on since last December.
August, since August of 2020.
Yeah. Do we need a motion on this?
Yes. I'll motion to.
All right, motion by Mr. Garcia, seconded by Mr. Molina. Mr. Miglerino, could you give us a verbal yes or no on the superintendent's goals?
Well, Ms. Brown has helped out and I can now vote electronically. And I just did.
Terrific.
That's because you're on the wrong page.
There it is.
Did you get it?
Yes.
We got it. Motion passes.
I didn't know I had to flip back to the agenda.
Sorry, yeah, you have to be on the agenda item.
I got it.
All right. Moving on to item number 2. Mr. Heath.
Good evening, Chairman Straka, members of the board, Superintendent Spurgeon. Way back on April 3rd, we announced the selection of GCON as our construction manager for the Agua Fria Trades Academy CMAR project. A design phase services contract was drafted, which myself and legal counsel reviewed, and tonight we are recommending a motion to approve this contract.
This would be for the Aqua project, which would include not new programs, but additional programs. Would be our medium heavy diesel moving from the northeast campus down along I-10 where all the trucking firms are. HVAC, welding, and electrical. So there'll be four major programs there. And these next two items are going to be coming at you fast and furious over the next few months. Because in order for us to get the programs open in July of 25 to open the doors, we're gonna have to move pretty quickly through these next two projects here. So, very excited about this one.
I'll move the approval of the design phase services.
Moved by Mr.
Count.
Mazarino, seconded by Mr. Ramirez. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the question. Ms. Brown? All right. Ms. Rodriguez, consideration of approval of GMP number 1 on the Northeast campus.
Thank you, Chairman Straka, members of the board, Mr. Spurgeon. So as Dr. Spurgeon said, we have a lot going on in our construction projects. So one of the design phase is one piece of, and that was for Agua Fria. We are asking you to approve a guaranteed maximum pricing, phase 1. And our partners, Orcutt Winslow and McCarthy are here this evening to present some information to you about this project.
Chairman Strong. Typically, it all comes at one time, but they're doing it in 2 phases now because we have to get the electrical equipment ordered now because there's a 47-week wait time in order to get the electrical equipment in. So that's why we're doing it in 2 phases. 8.3 now and then another 5 coming in next month. So that's why they're here this evening. It's typically all done in 1 phase, but this time it'll have to be done in 2.
Why is there a wait?
Actually, electrical equipment is way behind. It's been behind for.
I know they said that, but why?
It's, well, typically electrical gear, in the past has been
So
about
much
16
construction.
weeks or so, but because of COVID and the supply chain effects from that, the industry is still struggling to catch up. It used to be 80 weeks for electrical gear, but we are recovering significantly and we're now down to 47 or so. And in the near future, it'll get back kind of to normal, if you will.
So it
Maybe
was
this is the
normal-
new normal, right?
It was
So-
normal before COVID.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Chairman, governing board, superintendent. I'm Scott Sawinski with Orcutt Winslow, an architecture firm here locally, and this is Tyler with McCarthy Construction Company. So we're working as a partner to bring this project to fruition. So what we're talking about today is the Northeast campus. And so just to go over quickly, what we want to do is just show you a little bit about what the project is, give you some orientation about the design and what we've done to date, as well as what you can envision for the future there. And then we'll go through what that GMP price is. So just to set the stage for this, earlier in the board meeting tonight, Jared talked about the demand. And so this is, I wanted to put this up here just to talk about the demand that we're seeing from, for example, the TSMC plant for superconductors, microchips, things of that nature. And so we are reacting now to making sure that we can provide these programs for the students that will be that workforce. And so we're reacting as quick as possible because they need us now, right? And so we're moving quickly to make sure that we can open this for July of 25, so we can start reacting to that need. So if you didn't remember, the Northeast campus right now serves quite a few different programs. And when it was designed, on the bottom left, you can see that future building pad. So the previous design had taken into account that there would be room for growth on this campus. And so that's how we're moving forward, is we're taking that and running with it. And then the overall timeline for this project, that you are here symbol above August, that's where we are, and we're here to talk about GMP1 now, and we are in the throes of finishing the construction documents, all of the technical drawings that will go together so that we can build the project, and then we'll be moving towards building permit and getting in construction within a month or two moving forward. So the other thing that we want to mention is that through this entire process, we opened the process as much as possible to students, staff, all of the engagement with the partners, community partners. Everybody's come to the table to figure out what the future of this facility needs to be and how it needs to react to the needs. And so, for example, we've had community partners within welding, advanced manufacturing, and automotive within the purview of hybrid and electric vehicles all come and help us to dial in what all the needs of the facility will be. Through that process, we were able to come out with 4 concrete memorable goals for the project. I won't go into the fine print of these, but really the celebration of the signature programs in that, we wanted to make sure that this building helps to support those career pathways, but then also make them visible, make them engaging for the students. And so that was the 4th one there, making sure that we can make this as exciting a place to come to learn in as possible. So this is a top-down view of the campus. If you look towards the bottom left of the screen, that's where the Deer Valley Airport is. And we did look at the entire campus. There was more originally in the scope that we wanted to look at to make sure that as we continue to develop this site, whatever we did within this phase was not going to hamstring us in any way, paint us into a corner. And so through that process, we looked at quite a bit on site, made sure that we were good with building codes, water retention, electrical capacity, because we're about to bring a lot of load with the welding program and the advanced manufacturing program onto the campus, and look at where we can accomplish all the things that we wanted to. So the 2 buildings that we're going to talk about, buildings E and B. E is the new facility, and then B is an addition to the existing building B on campus. And we'll just show a couple of renderings. And so this is from the main parking lot looking back into the new facility. So the one with E in it, that's the one that we're talking about. We put a good fast forward logo branding on the side so that you could really emphasize the importance of that program back there. And then this building in particular, about half of the square footage is for 2 different programs, advanced manufacturing and welding. And we wanted to open that up for as much visibility as possible so that as students, parents, visitors, community partners, whoever come, they can come in and really start to engage in its immediacy with the programs inside. So as you enter the building, you'll be entering right into a secured entry vestibule. Even though this is at the back of the campus, it's still at the forefront of our mind to make sure that we're keeping everyone safe inside. One of the big things that we were focusing on was reacting to some of the asks that we got from the students, the staff. And so engagement through transparency was one of them, making sure that we could see into the lab spaces and boost that excitement. But another thing that we heard was theming throughout. I just want to mention that these are artistic renderings, and so we have not even had the conversation about what's going to be on the walls. So we put some placeholders on there. So for example, right now I see a stethoscope that's not in this building, and so that's a placeholder, and we'll be moving towards robotics and things of that nature, but you get the point, right? The other thing is that when we did talk to the students, one of their biggest asks was a student commons area, these small breakout areas for them to collaborate with their fellow students, do homework, and if they have time in between classes or shop time or class time, that they have this touchdown space. And so the building is designed such that it provides a ample opportunity within it to have those types of activities. The classrooms, there's 3 classrooms within the facility. 2 of them are designated for the advanced manufacturing and 1 for the welding. And this is a floor plan of the two buildings. On the left side is building E, that's the advanced manufacturing and welding. And then on the right side is an enlarged view of the added bay that is gonna house the hybrid and electrical vehicles. And so just to mention the technicians that would be trained, or the program offerings within the lab are for manufacturing technician, energy technician, and facility technician. And so those classrooms that are there are designed with that in mind, with the flexibility to do certain things within those classrooms that react to what's happening within the lab space as well. The welding classroom is directly adjacent, so there'll be direct transparency from the classroom into the lab for supervision purposes, et cetera. Let's go into each. And so I just want to touch base quickly on some of the things that you'll see in the labs. Right now, top left, that big square, we're bringing in a roots clean room. It's a mock clean room. This is the exact type of stuff that these students are going to witness when they show up on day one at their job. And so these allow us to really simulate things like the bunny suit, where you go into the clean room, you get clean, you put the whole suit on, you go in and you start to manipulate whatever you're working on. And then the other opportunities are making sure that we are aligning the equipment. So our consultant DSI is a national thought leader in all of the innovative things that are happening within this market. And so they are our best friends as far as letting us know that the Festo trainers are the right ones. The Fanuc and Kuka, robots. So it's been a joint effort, both with our consultants that bring in that expertise, as well as continuing to reach out to TSMC. We've had multiple meetings directly with them saying, hey, this is what we're bringing. Is this exactly meeting your needs? And the response has been that we're in alignment. And so we continue to make sure that we're providing what's needed. So this is a picture of the advanced manufacturing lab. In the back corner, opposite of where we're standing, is where that clean room would be. And then in the foreground, you can see that we have space for a variety of different styles of learning opportunities, whether that's gathering and teaching at a teaching station or hands-on with the stations that would be filled with the variety of robots. Hopping to welding, we again went through that exact same process, making sure that we were talking to our welding community partners, as well as making sure that we had innovative trends in mind. For example, the classroom this go around is enlarged slightly so that we can have virtual welders. So before students go into the actual lab, they'll be able to manipulate within that virtual environment, which allows them to get their feet wet, if you will, without the hazards of doing it live right away. And so there'll be CNC cutting, plasma cutters, and a variety of other things, as well as I think we have 24 welding booths that are ready and waiting for the students to use in conjunction with the storage and the equipment yard that's outside. So much like the Southwest campus, we did use that as a point of departure for this design, but then evolved it because it's been a couple of years since that was built. So a couple of nuances as we've improved things that are now available that weren't available before, for example. And so this is a picture of that welding lab, and on the far side, you see the transparency in between the classroom. And it's also of note, you can't see it because it's behind us in this rendering, but as you walk into that vestibule, there will be transparency into the welding area, and there's a small area there that will house welding, but it's a robotic welding. Now to the other portion of the building, this is the automotive tech, the EV and hybrid. And so within this perspective, the right side of the building was the side of the building that exists there currently. And we are replacing a small portion of the building by enlarging the the last bay. So there are already 4 or 5 bays there, I forget, that are already used for the existing program. And the intention here is not to create an entire new program, but to take this and insert it into the existing program within the amount of hours that the students study each topic. This subject matter will get added to that in some fashion. And so we will have an electric vehicle lift, a battery hoist, be able to start looking at the idiosyncrasies of what it means to work on an EV vehicle versus a standard combustion engine. And then we'll have a level 2 electric vehicle charger there. And then as this program evolves, what we're putting in flexibility into this space so that we can modify it as needed as this continues to change. So that's a rendering of the inside of that bay. Only thing I can think of that's changed since this was that we've discussed adding direct access between this bay and the other bays. So we'll be adding a door and looking at some equipment rearranging. But other than that, the design is as you see it. And so actually we brought some Teslas to hand out to you. There's a QR code on this slide. And so if you want to keep exploring, there's a QR code that you can scan on the hood of this car, and it will bring you into a 3D virtual environment that you can just on your phone use your finger to look around. And then if you want to keep exploring and move through, you can click on those orange circles. And so just despite to say, like, I follow objects as well, and the phone, QR code, and start exploring to 3D. So with that, the last slide is now we get to have this wonderful thing. What does it cost? So I'll hand it to Tyler.
Thanks, Scott. President Straka, members of the board. As Dr. Spurgeon mentioned, right, the goal that we have been given and the team has heard is that students need to be in this facility in June of 25. Right, we need the district to be able to move in, occupy the space, move in equipment, and get ready for students to come in August. We took on that challenge, and in order to get that challenge and meet it with flying colors, we have come up with a plan in order to mitigate the schedule challenges that we have with procurement and construction on a very tight timeline. So with that said, what we're presenting to you tonight is a guaranteed maximum price, GMP number 1. And what we're focusing here on is pre-purchase of equipment and materials that allows us to mitigate those lead times so that when we start construction and come to you with a final price in October, that we're a little bit ahead of the game to give us that flexibility to meet the time frame that has been given to McCarthy and to OW, our partner. The second part to this is the ability for us to start construction in September with dirt moving activities as well as concrete and footings. So it's purchase of equipment and allow us to get started on the front end of the project with construction activities. And this portion that we're asking for approval tonight is $8.4 million, and we'll follow up in October with the second and final round to the guaranteed maximum price. 8.2, sorry.
Are you talking about this September or next September?
We will start this September. We will, yes, ma'am, in 2 or 3 weeks. To the timeline that Scott showed you on the screen, right? Our first initial building plans will be going in the first part of September. We'll have a 2-week review, and once that review is complete, we'll be able to actually start moving dirt and moving into footings. So those numbers in here to get started on those are in this GMP and allows us really to get moving quickly, and that's what we'll need to do to meet the schedule.
What additionally will be doing to the Northeast campus with that extra 5 million?
It'll still be the same part of the same project. They're just bringing the first one to get all the foundation, the footings, and a pre-start on all the electrical stuff that wouldn't be here in time if we didn't.
Okay, because I think we originally talked about this in June of 23. That's when we first started talking about it. Are we still having still the same classes and things like that?
Yes, this will be the same, but there'll be a second phase once we do another bond issue. We'll actually do some remodeling of the actual medical assisting and pharmacy and a new community space there. We just can't do it in this phase. but because their medical assisting and pharmacy is in the same space right now, they're on top of each other. So that would be another project that the board would have to consider later on down the road, but not for this space. And let me just tell you, I've been pushing them hard, and they'll tell you that I have, and they've just been fantastic. And I push, and I don't apologize for it, but I push hard, and they've just responded extremely well. They're very happy.
To open it for students in
Next year.
July 25.
fabulous.
And keep in mind, this is a semiconductor manufacturing focus, but every student coming out of this could work in any manufacturing environment that they would so choose to work in. This will be one of the first of its kind to actually have a clean room. Kids will be in bunny suits working on their control systems and all
So
those.
they'll really have a feel for what it's like.
We'll have to add some vacuum technology and things like that that the wafers use. I don't know. And plus, we've had probably 7 or 8 of our West-MEC folks have actually been inside the lab, the fabs. And that's almost unheard of. Had to sign non-disclosure agreements and all that. So they've seen inside the secret place.
So when I look at this, building B, we're adding an EV bay, but it's the same automotive class. Building E is a new building. How many students are gonna be in the class? What's the capacity for the new,
Jared, what do you think?
the lab and
Sections?
Yeah, we'll be able to at least do 2 sections of each of those programs, so about 50 students in welding, at least 50 students in advanced manufacturing. We'll probably be able to grow that and run multiple sections in advanced manufacturing.
but at one time, there will be 50 new students, 25 and 25. So the question I asked when we first went through here, we need more parking. Where are we gonna have parking for 50 new students, 2 new instructors? And if I look at Northeast Campus, how do we maximize our utilization of the campus? Because I don't want to shut down building A so we can open up building E. That doesn't do us any good. Where are they gonna park?
That new parking lot that we built recently, which opened the door for us to grow this expansion, we have plenty of parking capacity to handle this new student load in that parking lot.
So what's our student load now? There? And are we using all the classrooms 100% or are we below capacity?
At Northeast Campus,
At
we're
Northeast
currently using all of the classrooms that we have on the campus. We are total student population, Mr. Swarner, correct? 610 students on campus throughout the day. Remember, they're not all on campus at the
So
same
if we wanted to do a maximum at concurrent, this because we want to run this all the time and we want to maximize. What is the maximum students we could have on campus at one time?
How much parking capacity do we have?
Parking, we're at, or. Now, we take like shoes off, you know. We could do 320.
320 parking?
So we could have 320 students at one time on campus.
And so we're adding 50.
Single cars.
We could easily absorb 50. We could do that tomorrow.
So what's our capacity of the classrooms we have now?
The current
Classrooms, if we had everybody at the same time, well, how many students would we have there?
Well, right now we have only about 200 students at a time in a section, because that's 600 spread throughout the day.
Right, so so my question is, at the, let's say 8 o'clock and 12 o'clock hour classes, is there a time where all the classrooms are used at the same time, or are we staggering them because of parking?
Well, I think the question is not so much the buildings, but like the number of students that we have.
Right, we
Like
have
2 sets.
what I'm trying to get to is parking has always been a problem there. What is our maximum capacity if we put everybody in our current buildings and classrooms? Not number of parking spots, number of, how many seats do I have for classrooms? And now I'm gonna add 50. What does that take us to?
So the answer is we have capacity. We are not staggering classes because of parking. The parking challenge, it's always been at Northeast Campus before we built that second parking lot. Once that was built, that's what opened the door for us to expand. Before, we couldn't expand any programming because we had no parking. That new parking lot has opened the door for us to be able to expand programming.
Okay, I hear that. I'm just asking a simple question. Our current buildings, what is the classroom capacity for all the students at one time?
Yeah, I would have to look at our program numbers and our master schedule. I don't know that off the top of my head. We have about 12.
Because what I want to make sure is if we need all those buildings all at the same time, do we have room to park students?
Yes.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm trying to follow the conversation, I'm kind of lost too.
So,
So knowing that there are multiple classes in a day. And at any given point of time, you're not gonna get the max capacity because it's multiplied throughout the courses of the day, right? So you have first hour, second, and they're not all gonna be there at the same time. So you're not gonna get every single student at school there at one given time. Unless there's an event where everyone's showing up. Normally, it's gonna be a portion of it for one class course. They're gonna go home, go back to school. Another group of kids are gonna come and that's gonna be that. Is that the question you're asking? Or are you asking if
Sort
everyone
about
was there at
parking
one time?
capacity, because earlier this year, I had a parent call and say, hey, my son goes to the Northeast Campus program and classes are canceled for 2 days because they don't have room to park because they're having a special event. And so it was some kind of competition that they were having there, so they canceled classes.
Is that a while ago? Was that recently?
That was this year. It was the second year they had done it.
It was last year. It was last spring. We hosted I believe what you're referring to is when we hosted the host of statewide competition. So.
Did we already have the extra parking lot at that?
How many parking spaces are students from across the entire region so you're talking multiple schools from all over, and so we.
Mr. Guy, I'm sorry. That was bringing additional almost 500 students onto our campus. It was one day a year, so that's why we do we do classes offsite.
I guess the message from the parent was, that's not how the parents received it. It's like, there's no room to park, so we're canceling classes. So I'm hearing that there's a parking issue still, or there's a perception that there's a parking issue. And that's what we want to get away from. If it means maybe we shouldn't host HOSA, that is something we should look at, because parents are under the impression there's not room to park for kids.
Is it parents or one parent?
It's one parent that I know of. But if you cancel class and the message to the parent is, we are canceling class because we're not gonna have room to park because we're having this statewide event.
Well, the classes shouldn't be canceled for that, I wouldn't think.
That's where, and I think CJ, we talked about this.
Yeah, I like a sense of responsibility of the Northeast campus, because it's kind of my baby. You've inherited it, Mr. Spornick, and you've done a very nice job. So as you look at the site with parking, the limiting factor was parking. That's what the east parking lot there allowed us to do, essentially double the parking spaces. None of our campuses are built for parking to accommodate every student to have their own spot during one session time. So if you took all the sections available at 1 o'clock at the Northeast campus and every single individual student drove a car, that would be about 340 spaces that you would need to accommodate that. So if you just went by that formula, there wouldn't be enough parking. But we know first year students in a 2-year program, most of them don't drive themselves. They're dropped off by a parent, they're transported there via some other means. So 340, you could probably take, I don't know, maybe 75 off of that are getting there some other way. So now you're down to 250 spots if every section was full to capacity at 1 o'clock, which is the highest attended session time. So that still would leave about 75 spaces open right now, which would then allow for the expansion of these 50 students, knowing also that not all of them will drive themselves. So I can say with confidence that there is parking capacity at the site to accommodate the new building E programs. And even if we went to a third section offered because of the advanced manufacturing, it is uncommon. Meaning it doesn't happen a lot where we have host an event, whether it be HOSA. We're actually having the conversation about the upcoming November general election. For the first time in West-MEC's history, we are at a polling site. And we are talking about plans for how might we navigate this influx of traffic and vehicles on our campus. And we've talked about creating a work-based learning experience that day for students that puts them in industry and not physically on our site. to create capacity for this voting to take place. Similar thinking was the case for the HOSA event that took place at the Northeast campus. So that's what I would offer to it, but I can say, knowing the site well and the history of the parking and navigating many of those conversations, that the addition of the 150 or so spaces to the east is what has allowed this growth to happen. And we can't accommodate the parking for what we're proposing.
So I would
Chair. Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Miglerino.
You bring up a valid point, and we beat this to death over the years. My concern is we have talked about, let's look to the future, and we have a big investment of programs and equipment and teachers there. So if the parking, and I say if, because I really don't know, but if it's going to be an issue, if we need more programs, if we need a third section, have we ever looked at a parking garage above ground, below ground? Have we talked to the people next door? I brought this up years ago to see if they might sell property. Now, maybe not all of it, but maybe a piece of it. You know, we don't need to do this thing today, but why didn't we look into those things? Or maybe we did, and, you know, we're just not considering them. That's okay. But it is a valid thing. That is a tight campus, but it's a very popular campus in a very popular area.
Sharon Straka, board member Miglerino, we have explored, and I know Tyler even got us a dollar amount estimate, wouldn't be held to it, but it was, I mean, the parking structure was well into the millions to construct. It was, I think, 3, 4, 5 times the cost of just surface level parking.
It's a 50,000 a spot or something.
Yeah, it was incredibly cost prohibitive for the return that we would have got for those spaces and programming. And the site is landlocked. We've got 2 sides that are up against an airport, and we've got the other that are developed industrial spaces. There's not open land in close proximity. We approached the city at the time about some of their undeveloped airport city-owned land to the northeast. But because there was a lot of strings tied to that with FAA funding and federal dollars, they weren't able to do anything with that. But the lease agreement and the access we have to that additional parking to the east was really the best that we were going to get, knowing that this was really a landlocked campus. I think at this point with the parking that we have, and we could compare it to parking that we've got for our other sites, but the Northeast campus, the limiting factor will be building space. I don't think it will be parking. I think we've got adequate parking for what we're going to be able to put on that site. So you're doing a good job keeping you just bite your tongue, because he's been a part of all these conversations too.
When we come back in September, could we get the capacity of the current campus, the proposed additions, so that we can put this to rest or have concerns? Because we have a new opportunity in Vista Verde. And at what point do we say, maybe we stop investing here and start to invest somewhere else because of the capacity of parking? And there's no, because I think, Dr. Spurgeon, you and I looked at land. I was searching for land around there, and like you were saying, there's nothing nearby.
Yeah, I believe that analysis would be easy enough to provide to the governing board.
Yeah, this would be it for capacity. You really won't be able to add any more programs here. Now, when medium diesel leaves and goes out, there'll be another program that will come in that space. There won't be any additional building here because we're landlocked.
Any other questions?
Very exciting.
I would entertain, hearing nothing, I'd entertain a motion to approve or something.
Motion to approve. When is this electrical stuff that's been delayed? 47 weeks? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so we've purchased the gear at risk to get it moving. And so that
So
gear,
you figured that into, okay, it'll be here then, by then we'll be ready for this.
yeah, we know how to schedule. Yes,
Oh, man.
yes, sir. Yeah.
It's
So
fun to watch
it's
this.
scheduled to be here at the beginning of April, which gives us enough time to install the gear, wire the gear and the panels that will probably already be installed. So at that point, when it lands on site, we'll just be pulling feeders from the service section to transformers to sub panels, et cetera. So that's what we're gonna have to do. Everything's gonna be built, it's gonna come, we're gonna put it in place and then run the wires.
And we'll do the full groundbreaking and opening day and all that stuff.
It'll be a big deal piece.
I think it's my area.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, make a motion to approve the.
I move we approve the GMP #1 for the Northeast Campus as presented.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Ramirez and Mr. Miglerino and seconded by Mr. Molina. Hearing no more discussion, I'll call for the question. Start.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 4. Ms. Mays. This is a renewal, isn't it?
Well, actually, Chairman Straka, when we submitted the approved stipend list in spring, this particular stipend was not included, and that's why it's presented to you today as an action item. We had our fingers crossed that we would be able to fill the position, but we haven't been able to. For you to see.
So do we have now a candidate?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? And this is because of. This is to pay
Mr. Chair.
because of the additional work of all of the coordination of all the nursing duties and all the students all over the place.
And as a correction, it's not a position that we're filling, it's a stipend that we're paying to a current nursing instructor.
When you said it, I thought we found somebody.
Never mind. Fingers crossed that we would.
When we have this on the stipend list, here from your out, that way we wouldn't have to come back. So if we find somebody, we wouldn't have to use the same way, but at least it'll get approved with all the other stipends. We just had our fingers crossed.
So the outlet is doing, I think her name is Debbie. Is she interested in taking that position?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I mean, fulfilling that role and finding another instructor.
Correct. She will still assume her instructional duties. This is on top of what she's doing.
No, I know that. I understand that. What I'm asking is, we're looking for another coordinator. Is she interested in assuming that role and only that role?
That's a great question. If I were in her shoes, she'd be giving up a full-time position for a part-time position.
Oh.
25, so I don't know if she would, but it hasn't been presented to her as far as I know, but that might be a deal breaker.
Okay.
Is that part of the challenge in finding someone because it is a part-time position?
You are correct, Board Member Ramirez, that is the challenge, is because it is a part-time position. But, paying the stipend is cheaper than paying for a half-time position. That would cost the district anywhere between $32,000 and $45,000 if we had to pay a half-time instructor. And it's even cheaper than a 6/5.
That's what we
The range for that nursing program coordinator was between 55,800 and 75,800.
Correct, and I just
That's part-time position?
I calculated it based on a teacher's salary, because I didn't have the sheet in front of me, but a coordinator would actually be more expensive.
Okay, so that was supposed to be the salary range for the coordinator. So that is the salary for a part-time position.
It is a 0.5 coordinator position. And I don't have my hiring ranges sheet in front of me, but it would be at the exempt coordinator level. And then half of that amount would be the cost to the district, plus benefits.
just what you would pay in state ASRS and our share of FICA and everything is going to be more than $5,000 a year.
And benefits, if they decided to take any of our medical, vision, dental, that too.
But at halftime, do we offer benefits?
We do offer half benefits. Any other questions?
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Motion by Ms. Bosom, second.
Second.
By Mr. Ramirez. All in favor, or I guess, let's, Ms. Brown, come on.
Motion passes.
All right. Ms. Mace, you get to stay there.
That's what I figured.
Mr. Everybody remember Mr. Garcia came up with a great idea of purchasing a separate phone versus the stipend. And so that's why we spun off of this. I think before I first got here, we had probably 50 or 60 folks on a stipend, 70. And now the board asked us to go back and identify the most critical individuals to ensure that we have a smooth process, crisis planning and things like that. So the folks you see in front of you today is the minimum of what we think they'll run the organization. And then there's a policy there that guides the work around using that, use of that cell phone. So I'm glad we were able to bring this back. So go ahead, Ms. Mace, sorry about that.
Is there anything else you would like to say, or are we questions from the board, or?
I think we've discussed this.
Yeah, what I like about it is if a campus administrator goes on vacation, they can take the cell phone and give it to the person. And when they're in Hawaii for the week, they're not getting that emergency phone call that they can't do anything about. Yep.
So I'll make a motion to approve this.
All right, motion and seconded by Mr. Garcia. Hearing no more discussion, I'll let Ms. Brown call us for the question. Did you?
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Since these are gonna be district-owned phones.
They will be.
Yes, are these gonna be smartphones, dumb phones?
For our vendors, and make a decision on a vendor. We'll look at the cost of the various products that they have and use the most cost effective.
And the reason I ask is because if it's a smartphone, then are we going to restrict the apps that are downloaded onto it with social media, the communication is, that it's used for?
And again, we would certainly look at what products that they present to us when they have experience working with cell phone policies. We've just done a basic phone for calling, for texting, and for emails. Not necessarily with all of the additional apps, but if it's cheaper, we certainly could consider it.
And IT, I imagine, can always restrict that, and the concern is we don't want people posting stuff that we don't want out there in public, or if they leave the district, now we have a phone with a bunch of their personal information, accounts.
And then it's also subject to like public information request, and we don't want to invade their privacy because they did something on a district phone.
You're absolutely
Phone
correct.
calls, text messages, maybe to take a picture of an incident, every email. So that's really it. There's.
Some emergencies.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
Made by Robert Wiley, seconded by Robert Garcia.
Yep. We're ready.
Motion passed.
All right, moving on. Ms. Brown. I'm not used to you.
Just to go over the packet, everyone received their packet that they sent out to the board. I sent it ahead of time. So just a reminder, at the May 8th meeting, the board discussed and took actions on the 4 priorities. Those priorities were sent to the Arizona School Boards Association. They reviewed and discussed every submitted proposal as per their letter. That was that first page. They reviewed and discussed every submitted proposal at its meeting in June. This is what they came up with. Their proposed agenda this time around, they submitted a red line version so you can see what was changed, what was added. So at this time, this is just for board to discuss whether or not you want to send a delegate to the September 7th delegate assembly, and then instruct basically that delegate to vote or speak for benefit of the board. So.
Is anyone interested in attending that meeting? I know Ms. Wiley, you've done that duty. I've did that duty many years ago. Is anyone interested in attending? I appreciate everything you've done, Ms. Brown, but I don't hear of a volunteer. I appreciate your due diligence. I did scan through this and I didn't see any mention of ESAs.
Well, if you dig deeper into the document, the full document there, we found out that there are some statements around it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that.
Well, I'm disappointed because on this one, I don't see any mention of ESAs, and I was optimistically pleased that they maybe heard us. So maybe they heard us enough to bury it.
No, they're actually, if any kind of legislation comes up, they want to nip it in the bud.
Well, but if any legislation comes up to nip it right now, that
Well,
means keep the status
they would
quo.
advocate against it, is what they're saying.
It's under item 2 of required public accountability and transparency. The third to the last page.
What page are you on?
Item number 4.
Okay, I see it.
So number 2. Repeal any program that gives funds to private schools, vouchers, empowerment scholarship accounts, and private school subsidies, school tuition organizations, and prevent any future expansion.
Try about that.
Yeah, that means no expansion for West-MEC students. Or
So, yeah.
Well, hearing nothing, I guess we can move on. No action taken. Unless Mr. McLarino, would you like to go this year?
Absolutely, unequivocally, positively, no.
I thought I'd offer because didn't want you to feel left out. All right, that brings us down to future agenda items.
I'll start.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, do I have the floor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The other thing with this computer, it's really tough to hear. I'm really glad I wear hearing aids because I turn them all the way up just to be able to hear. That should not have to be. But what I want to talk about are cell phones. We just passed number 5. I think it was 5. And I agree technology is wonderful. We need it. It helps us in many ways. But my favorite word in life is balance. And I'm not sure that we often balance technology. My question for the staff is, do we need to look at cell phone usage by students? I want to repeat, I am not asking for a ban on cell phones. I don't want to read the paper in the morning and see that because it's not true. I just question with the technical aspects of what we do, should there be some restrictions or should we just leave it alone? And I would like to ask our administration to talk to the staff about it and report back to us. Thank you.
All right, so what I heard is Mr. Miglorino asked for a complete ban of cell phones by students. And he'd like that on the September meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Straka. I love you too.
Any other agenda items? All right. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Ramirez, seconded by Mr. Garcia. We will stand adjourned till September. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Did you get one of those for Mr. Miglorino? He's a car guy.
Thanks, Frank.